Why, hi there. I'm Ron Chuckett. Look at the camera, Ron. And why, it's always a happy recap with a Nats win. This is really the happiest recap you can have in the regular season. As the Nationals have turned their magic number to 1, they have clinched a tie for the National League Eastern Division as they beat the Philadelphia Phillies 3-2 following another gem of a job from Steven Strasburg. 8 innings of shutout ball. Ryan Madson gives up 2 in the 9th, but no one really cares. In Atlanta, as I'm looking up, it is 5-5, bottom of the 7th. Nicolino pitching, Markakis at the plate, and we will stay on the air. We may, share cookie recipes by the end of this with Ricky Keeler, but we're going to try to stay with you until the Marlins game goes final. So, Ricky, how are you?
I'm doing good, Ron. How are you?
Doing great. Had some office problems here, so had to buy a new TV. So that's up there, which is why I'm wearing the glasses and not the usual there, so I can keep an eye on 17,000 things at once.
Absolutely. Glad that we got the technological problems on our Ron's end taken care of. So if you want to chime in throughout this potential celebration DoDCast, you can ask a question or comment here on the YouTube page, or tweet us on Twitter at District on Deck, or tweet me at Ricknader555, and you can tweet Ron at
Ron Juckett.
There you go.
But District on Deck is going to be the easiest way to do that, as Markakis has singled for Atlanta to start with 1 out in the bottom of the 7th. So District on Deck, just tweet District on Deck. That's going to be the easiest way to do that, or in the chat. Ricky will monitor the chat, and I will monitor Twitter. There's no one really watching at the moment, but we'll repeat that a couple times later. While we have this lull in the action, let's go through the box score. The Nationals, with this win, go to, I'm waiting here, as Don Mattingly makes a double switch down in Atlanta. The Washington Nationals go to 88-55. Steven Strasburg picks up his 13th win of the year. He goes to 13-4. Lively for Philadelphia goes to 3-6. Madson picks up his second save, but it was kind of rough. Phillies, who dropped to 54-89, 2 runs on 5 hits, no errors. The Nats, 3 runs on 6 hits and no errors. Steven Strasburg now has 34 scoreless innings in a row, which is now the franchise record. I doubt he will get the chance to break it this year, at least in the regular season. I don't know if he would throw 3 more times in the last 20 games. What do you think?
Well, if it looks like they're going to the 5-man rotation, so that wouldn't, because AJ Cole did pitch last night. So, I mean, what do you got? 19 games left? Maybe, probably gets 3 more at the most.
Okay, so if you figure at 7 innings to start, he might actually have a chance to get into Walter Johnson, Don Drysdale, and Orel Hershiser territory, which is pretty amazing, even if he just throws 7 innings to start the next 3. This game took 2 hours and 16 minutes to play. That's got to be a record for the year.
Considering that, it's more impressive when you have the expanded rosters and you only take 2 hours and 16 minutes to play.
Lively, by the way, threw a complete game. He threw an 8-inning complete game for Philadelphia. There was only 3 pitchers used in this game. I think Atlanta and Miami are using 3 pitchers an inning in their game. So Strasburg's line, his game score, by the way, was 92. He goes to 13-4, as I said, 8 innings, 2 hits, no runs, so none of them were earned. He walked 1 and struck out 10. And I know you came in late for this. Did you see the fist bump after the double play in the 8th?
Yeah, that is the most pumped I think Steven Strasburg has ever been about anything in his baseball career, I feel like.
I would think so. He really wanted it. And if his pitch count wasn't 108, I think they would have given him the 9th. But I think it was Dusty was very wise not to do that. Let Madson close it out. Madson was very pumped, and it showed. He was hitting 97 on the gun at times, and just a couple of bleeders and a bloop. Old friend of mine, Junichi Tozawa, is pitching for the Marlins, and Ichiro is actually in the field, Ricky, and left. on the double switch.
You just know Ichiro is going to make an impact on this game at some point.
I would think so. And this really is probably the first time that you've ever done one game while closely watching another. And in fact, you're right. The first pitch or the second pitch was a fly ball to Ichiro and left.
Well, I did not know that, so I just went off the Ichiro standpoint. But we had better luck last night that the Nats game ended kind of the same time the Marlins Brave game ended on the Inciarte walk.
Offensively for the Nats, it was all the kids today, and they had 3 doubles. Defoe with his 9th, Sanchez with his 5th, and Robles, his first major league hit. I don't think you've seen this yet. High off the wall in right center. He tried to turn it into 3. In fact, he was safe on the slide, but he overslid the bag and was tagged out. Turner with his 6th triple, and Turner with his 9th home run and his 40th RBI. Nats only straight at 4 today. With runners in scoring position, they were 2 for 5. So all in all, they wanted the kids to do this, and the kids did everything that they possibly could. I'm not calling Strasburg and Madsen kids, by the way. But, this is what Dusty wanted. And, the entire season, Ricky, he makes it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Dusty did. We talked about it last night, and Seth's here. What's up, Seth? And yes, I know the Redskins lost. But you look at what Dusty's done. I think he did a nice job giving the kids an opportunity to play today. They absolutely deserved it. They've done so much for this team this year. The only thing I would have tinkered with the lineup, I would have loved to see Victor Robles hit behind Trey Turner.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
Speed on top of speed and just go from there. How do you feel if you're Adam Lynn, that you're the lone veteran that had to play today?
He's going to the playoffs. I don't think he really cares.
No, I don't think he's mad about it. It just seems odd. Like they could get it like somebody to play first base and just complete the whole minor league trio plus Trey Turner.
That's true. This was the shortest game at Nats Park this year. 2 hours and 16 minutes.
Good games all around. Turner, like you said, 2 hits in the home run. Wilmer Defoe had a 2-hit game, and he needed that after a rough pinch hit performance last night. But Victor Robles, first time getting to watch him, and even last night, Ron, I thought for a second major league at bat and all the circumstance, he was the winning run last night, the tying run in scoring position, and he had a pretty good at bat against Hector Neris. That's not easy to do.
No.
So these rookies have come up, and they put together between Sanchez and Reed last night got the count full, and Robles. They're not just going up there swinging. They're going up there with a plan, and they're making pitchers work and not making it easy outs by any means.
I saw the end of the game last night. They're watching this, by the way, on the scoreboard at Nats Park. Stanton ends the 7th, running into the wall to make a catch against the Coca-Cola sign there into that brick padded wall. So after 7 in Atlanta, it is 5-5. But you're absolutely right. These are smart kids. And for a lot of these people, they've had to play a lot of baseball this year. In Robles' case, he played, 3 levels? And some of the others, because of all the injuries, they've played half a year in the majors. So there's really no pressure. There really wasn't a lot of pressure coming into today because, look, magic number was 2 coming in. And so if it doesn't happen today, you still have 19 games to win 1 more. I think they're going to be able to do that. So I really like the move to do that because why not? There's really nothing to lose.
No, not at all. And I think Dusty had this plan even before the magic number got down to 1, and Judo's here and Jay Lewis is here. So what's up to both of you guys? Glad you're here. I think Dusty realized, hey, if we don't clinch today, there's always Tuesday against Atlanta. The Braves are throwing Julio Teheran, I believe, in that game. So you never know with him what might happen. But Gio's going to start Tuesday. So you still get a good pitcher on the mound regardless. I just think Dusty's one of those guys that he's a player's manager, and he's going to give Rendon breaks and Murphy breaks and Zimmerman breaks because they've earned a couple of days off. And you and I were talking before the Nats game ended that you wouldn't be surprised if all those guys got off Tuesday also.
If the Braves win today, I would imagine that's the case. Jose Ramirez takes the mound, by the way, in Atlanta for the Braves. I would not be surprised if there is some extended time off once this is clinched, whether it's today or that. But wouldn't it be something though, Ricky, if the Marlins do win today? I mean, despite the fact that Strasburg pitched the game of his life this afternoon, I mean, wouldn't it be fitting for Gio Gonzalez to end up pitching the clincher?
It would be a complete 180 for Gio, and I think you got to the point where he would go from coming out of the fifth inning in a playoff game last year to getting a chance to win the clinching game. That would be something exciting for him. So either way, I think the Nats are happy regardless. Let's take a look. I got a couple of things here. Seth asking us a question kind of like I think both of us have gotten. Could Victor Robles make the postseason roster?
I'm not sure he can because he wasn't up before September 1st, right? Unless there's an injury.
True, and he wasn't. I don't think you have to be on the 40. I think by September 1st.
Yeah, I don't think he was, so I don't think he can.
And
by the way, he's
playing a lot of baseball too. I mean, you talk about the levels that the 2 levels he's played this year, the major league time he's getting now. He's going to Arizona next month. He's probably going to play winter ball after Arizona Fall League. He's playing nonstop baseball for a 20-year-old.
He is. I believe in the Dominican, he's playing winter ball.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's see what else we got here. Another one was I'm trying to think. Oh, Judo had this. I think Severino is a must move. That's going to be something to think about over the next 3 weeks, and it's something I brought up, Ron, last night. If Pedro Severino gets a chance to play and starts to put up some good numbers, today he went 0 for 3 with a couple of strikeouts. That's not going to exactly help his cause, but I think the Nats would, if one of these young kids could force their hand and not have Jose Lobaton as the backup, they would sign up for it. But right now, Lobaton's probably your backup catcher in 3 weeks.
D. Gordon, by the way, I haven't seen this yet, but has hit a pinch hit homer to make it 6-5 Miami. And they're booing at Nats Park, the homer. Let's see the pitch here. I'm about to see it. Oh, it was a tater right over the plate, and it's into the bar there with all the individual freezers in right field. That's a pretty short porch in Atlanta. So that's the second homer of the year. Big smile from Gordon. Goes to try to high-five the dugout, and it's 6-5 with 1 out in the top of the 8th. Yeah, as far as the catching thing is, I think it's, look, you know what you're going to get from Lobaton, and that hasn't been that much this year. But I think Severino is going to have plenty of chances, I think, to give Dusty Baker a chance to think. I don't think that's going to be a one-game decision. I know that – did Reed catch last night, or did he pinch hit?
Reed did catch the whole game last night.
And I saw that he had a hit.
He did have it. He actually had it. Was one swing. He has good power. I know you saw it today. When he gets barrel on the ball, it travels pretty far.
Yes.
But the problem last night, we talked about it, was kind of the disconnect with Roddy Reed and Edwin Jackson being battery mates for the first time.
Right, and Reed did not catch in AAA the short time that Jackson was there, so they've never seen each other before. So why do you think he didn't go with Severino last night? At least Severino would have caught him once, right?
Most likely, yes. I just think he was going to play one of these guys either way. I just think he wanted to give Reed an opportunity to get in the starting lineup. I don't think really you're looking at – because even it's one game versus no games, so or maybe 2 games in the case of Severino with Jackson. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference last night. Jackson just wasn't in a rhythm at all. It was really, arguably, I thought, one of his worst games of the season and when he doesn't play Milwaukee.
Well, some people just have your number. And as far as Jackson is concerned, it's a case of, look, he's a 5th starter, and you never know what you're going to get from a 5th starter. You certainly don't hope that the Nats lose another starter on the way, because that would make him a playoff starter. Rojas, by the way, for Miami, just got plunked. I know the sound on because I'm on the air, but there are some not so happy Miami Marlins right now. So they have a runner on first and 1 out in the 8th. And someone on Twitter just told me that D. Gordon hit the second homer of the year. For what you get out of Jackson, he's pitched better than expected, in my point of view, even with a bad game last night. And certainly Roddy Reed will not make the playoff roster, you would think, right?
No, I don't think so. I think you're set with either Lobatone or Severino, but Lobatone is probably the backup. I don't think anybody else is making the postseason roster in the catcher spot. Seth brought up Dusty for manager of the year. Where would you put Dusty on that list? Because it seems like there's so many candidates in the National League this year that I think you can make the case Dusty won't finish in the top 5.
I think when you lose as many players as the Nats have to injuries, and the fact that here we are at 10 after 4 on September 10th, waiting to see if they clinch the division title before the Dodgers, how can you not put Dusty as manager of the year? He's held everything together. Look, this team has lost their 5th starter. They've lost their starting center fielder, and they've lost their MVP candidate for most of the 4th quarter of the season. And running lineups out there that you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing this. And yet they're an 88-win team who has clinched a tie for the division with 19 games to go. What more could you have expected?
No, I think Dusty has a great case. I'm just looking around the league, and you got Bud Black in Colorado. You've got Craig Counsell in Milwaukee, who, if they hang on to win today, are going to only be 2 games back in the Central.
Right.
They wrote Milwaukee off. You have, obviously, Dave Roberts. Trying to think any other names you could throw.
Oh, Arizona.
Yeah, Torey Lovullo.
Torey Lovullo, who is
yeah, I never get that right.
Yeah, it's okay. I forgot who it was, but that's the one that the Red Sox should have hired a long time ago to run their team. I mean, yes, that there are, and because Milwaukee is a very good young team, Arizona has done everything right this year after a bad year last year, and Colorado decided during the offseason that they actually wanted to make a run for it, and my goodness, they have. So, but no, I think that despite the fact that you're absolutely right, they have very legitimate cases. If you look at what happened yes, I know the Mets have lost predominantly a lot of pitchers, but if you look at what the Nats have done this year compared to what the Mets have done this year with all their injuries, how could one of the writers leave Dusty Baker off the top 3? He may not be your number 1, but he certainly should, because you get 3, first, second, or third. He should be on that list. And
I don't think Dusty will repeat his 2nd place finish from last year.
Well, it won't be. It won't be Madden again. But the Cubs have played tired most of the year, and you're right. Counsell has done a tremendous job in Milwaukee.
Bottom of the 8th in Atlanta now. So
yeah, just watch the final out here. And if that goes to MLB Network, if you're watching that, let me know, and then I can actually go to real time here instead of watching this on a delay. Which, if you're wondering, is how I do these games for the Nats up here in Vermont, is that I'm usually a couple pitches behind.
Both of us do that. So
right. But you get a few more because of the Mets. Let's go through the rest of the meaningful scoreboard as we continue to kill time. If you want to drop something in to us at District on Deck on Twitter, I can read that. And Ricky is keeping you company in chat today. No finals that matter in the National League. Reds lead the Mets 7-5 in the top of the 8th. We're watching the Miami-Atlanta game with you, and if you're watching it on the scoreboard, have fun down there. I know that some were disappointed that the kids could not run the bases for the Nats today.
Can Nats Park put our cast on one of those on a small screen and put?
Wouldn't that be something?
On a big screen.
Wouldn't that be something? Let's see. The Cardinals lead the Pirates 6-0 in the bottom of the 7th. You had mentioned this earlier. Milwaukee leads the Cubs 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th, and the Dodgers and Rockies have just started. Nobody out. The leadoff runner is on for the Rockies. We'll check these again before we leave you.
Don't dismiss St. Louis. If they win that game and Milwaukee wins, St. Louis is 2 behind also. So it all of a sudden becomes a 3-team race, and the Cardinals are at Wrigley next week.
This may be the only time I ever do this. Let's run through the NFL scoreboard. Steelers have beaten the Browns 21-18. That game is a final. The Lions have scored 20 in the 4th quarter with 4:03 to go, according to NFL.com. They lead the Cardinals 35-17. I almost said the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm old. Jacksonville 29-7 over Houston in what may be the stunner of the day. Houston benched their quarterback in the first half. Oakland beat the Titans 26-16. Eagles score 11 in the fourth quarter to beat the Redskins 30-17. It was Kirk Cousins not having a very good day at all.
I didn't like that very much.
Ravens shut out the Bengals 20-0 in Cincinnati. The Falcons have beaten the Bears 23-17. The Bills beat the Jets 21-12. So the Jets and the Patriots are resting in the basement of the AFC East after week one. Now, probably the only time this year it happens. Only one game in progress right now in front of about a good friends and family crowd at the LA Coliseum. The Rams lead the Colts 9-0. And I really saw someone said there was about 20,000 people there for that. Like I said,
there were more people probably at the USC game last night than at the Rams game today.
So Tozawa is still pitching for the Marlins as we start the bottom of the eighth inning. If Rio Ruiz, which is one of my favorite names of all time, is at the plate, if this does end today, if I have to write a slideshow for tomorrow explaining, how the East was won, Ricky, is there a turning point? Let me look in the camera. Is there a turning point for you of how this all went together? I mean, we talked a little bit about Dusty Baker's role in it, but what was the big key for you in this?
I'm trying really the tough one to think of like one exact moment where this team just clicked. Because really, when you look at their schedule this year, we really haven't had to go through a point where this team has lost 10 of 12 or lost 12 of 14. They'll usually, if they lose maybe 3 in a row, they'll come back and then they'll win 4 in a row. Or to me, I think it just speaks to the, like you said, the resiliency of the team. That there always seem to be in every game. There's usually probably I would say 2 or 3 games where maybe the Nats just didn't show up. But besides that, that's pretty good for 140 so odd games.
But you're absolutely right. That is the key. There's only 2 or 3 games. We had one last Sunday. The last game I did for here was like, what are you doing? But you're right. Those things are just so few and far between. Their longest losing streak this year is 4.
Let me give you maybe one. Maybe the series there was, I think, 2 early in the year. The series in Colorado, where the offense absolutely, I think it was like 30 or 40 runs in that 4-game series.
That was the tricycle.
Yep, the tricycle. Nearly had another tricycle 2 nights ago. It was a triple away from another one. And the Harbor fight in San Francisco, because once they had the Harper fight, they went on another one of those long winning streaks again.
They did. They swept the Giants, and they took 3 out of 4 for Oakland on that series. And because this is my first full season with the team, I never thought that if you were going to have a fight in a game for the Nats, it would be in San Francisco, of all places, to try to right a wrong from a playoff series from 2014.
Judo brought up a good point. He said, I don't think there was a major turning point. I think it was mostly skill inconsistency.
Yeah, guys, if you're on the chat, what do you think was the biggest key to the Nats potentially winning the division? This would be where I would give out a phone number if we had it. But if you're in the chat, you can ask Ricky. And if you're on Twitter, tweet me a question at District on Deck on Twitter, and we'll try to answer it. As we have 1 out in the bottom of the 8th in Atlanta, and Tozawa is about to get the 2nd out. So maybe we won't be here for forever. But it's still 6-5 Miami on the D. Gordon home run, which would mean that we'll do this on Tuesday.
Where do you stand on, because now I'm looking at the other scores here. Colorado's already up 1-0 on Rich Hill, base loaded, nobody out. So if the Dodgers lose again, which would be 10 in a row, and the Nats would only be 4 behind for home field with the Dodgers coming up over the weekend, if you're the Nats, do you want the number 1 to play potentially a red-hot Arizona team who will have their pitching set up because they have an 8-game lead on Colorado pretty much.
Right, but they still, as I actually wrote about this yesterday. By the way, Adam Eaton's kid got a standing ovation as he's running the bases in Washington. Thanks to Chelsea Janes for that. It's probably the first time I think ever that, or one of the rare times that if the Diamondbacks win the wild card game, they would have a better record than a division winner. Because the winner of the NL Central is not going to have that good of a record, depending on who wins that wild card game. I mean, yes, you're right. They'll have the chance to set up that rotation, but wouldn't the Diamondbacks have to go with Robbie Ray in that one game against Colorado?
Even if they went Ray, you would still throw Greinke in a game one.
Right. I mean, there's,
it's probably Arizona to be the team that the Nats have had to fight hard in a lot of games with Arizona.
Right.
A lot of close ones they've had this year. I think the only difference would be the Central. It looks like it's going to come down to that last weekend between the Cubs and Brewers at Miller Park. So if, let's say, those teams have to play a playoff or whatever, there's a lot of things that can happen in 3 weeks. But the Diamondbacks, I know Fernando Rodney blew a 6-run lead in the 9th inning last night, or the combination of Rodney and somebody else, I think, came in for Arizona before him. But I like their offense with Martinez. I think their starting pitching, whatever. You saw Ray, Greinke, Walker, the kid Zach Godley's pitched really good for them. You still have Patrick Corbin. I think their rotation's pretty deep, too. That would be a really fun 5-game series if that's the case. But Arizona, I think, has the best chance to beat the Dodgers in that first round because, quite frankly, I don't know what has gone wrong with LA. Could it really just be, Ron, because Rich Hill didn't get that perfect game? They've been bad since that game.
You kind of go. We talked a little bit about this with the Nats. I mean, you can only go so long and play. You brought this up a couple of weeks ago, or when they started this. If you start taking your foot off the gas, you can only play so many games that don't mean anything without it coming back to hurt you. If it comes down to that one game, then the Dodgers were paper tigers to begin with, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Jay brings up a good point. Says I think you play to play and don't worry about that. We'll have to play one of a lot of good teams, so no easy series. Yeah, I don't really think there is an easy series out there, and that includes St. Louis. If St. Louis makes it, then they're in as good a position to compete in the best of 5.
I think if you were going to say I want to play X team in the playoffs, the one I would want to play is the Cubs because I know that their pitching is older. If it is the Brewers or the Cardinals, they're going to come in as the hot team. And you don't ever want to face the hot team in a best of 5 series. If it's if it is the wild card, if it is Arizona, I really don't want to play them in the first round. If the Rockies were to upset them, or if the Central team was to upset them, that's a different story. But you're right. In a best of 5, you just kind of hold your breath and just kind of hope. The one thing though, that if the Nats do beat the Dodgers for the best record, if they survive, they would have game 1 of the NLCS at home. And if they really survive, it's game 1 of the World Series at home. And potentially, because the All-Star game no longer counts for anything, you would get game 7 of the World Series in Washington. So
Judo brought up a good point before. Could a turning point be the Jeremy Guthrie game? You can make Guthrie's probably the one game where they really didn't look good at all. And they really, since that game, haven't, outside of that one in Milwaukee, maybe I think it was like the blowout game against the Braves, really haven't played a bad game since that point.
I had that game, and that game was like it was going to run on forever. And they did the right thing and released him right after. You know what? Yeah, that could be up there. I'm trying to think. I honestly think that series over the 4th of July against the Mets, as Stanton hits the wall in right center. He's going to have at least 2. They'll hold him to a double. Whistler is in the pitch for Atlanta, and it's 6-5 Miami. It's their 10th hit of the game. I think maybe the last best chance a team had to catch them was the 4th of July series. And they almost came back to win the Monday night game. They won the Tuesday morning game on the 4th, and I think they won the Wednesday game. And that was the last time that anyone was within 10 games of this team.
The Wednesday game actually got canceled, I believe.
Okay.
That was part of the doubleheader from
that's right.
2 weeks ago.
So, I think it was that. I think it was the last chance that anyone really had to keep the Nats honest, and the Mets couldn't do it. You also want to look at the 23-5 game against the Mets when Rendon, who was in the middle of another April slump, he drove in 12 runs that game? In the 23-5 game?
10, I believe, yeah, but definitely up there. I would say 2 others to add to that. 2 out of 3 in LA.
Well, that was huge. And the one they lost was to Kershaw.
And Strasburg only gave 1 run, I believe, in that one.
And then that was the game that Lobaton blew behind the plate.
And taking 2 out of 3 in Wrigley, I think, without Scherzer pitching, without Strasburg. Was Strasburg pitch? I don't think Strasburg pitched. I think it was Edwin Jackson, Eric Fetting, and Tanner Roark.
Right. It was the back end of the rotation, and they went in there, and it's really the only playoff atmosphere they've kind of played in a while, and won. They took 2. Wow. Just an Irma-related note. They just had a gust of 131 at the Naples airport about 15 minutes ago. But back to that, every time they've been put to the challenge, they've won. They've stood up to it. I believe at one point in the first 100 games, they had only played 20 games against teams with winning records. I can look that up. They're that's just amazing.
Apparently, Chelsea Janes tweeted that the Braves broadcast was ripping Bryce Harper's cornrows in the 9th inning of the game.
Yes.
That would make me want to clinch on Tuesday in their face. Because Atlanta's broadcast does not hold back against the Nationals. Now, they have proper criticism with the rain delay that never was a rain delay.
Right.
A few weeks ago. But really, why do you have to bring up Bryce Harper in a 9th inning of a 1-run ball game?
Runners on Stanton scores on a single on a double by Yelich. It's now 7-5.
Their top 5 is really good. With Stanton, Gordon, Yelich, Real Muto, and Ozuna, and Justin Bour's back. So let's say their top 6 I put with anybody in the league.
I forget how – I'm going to change the subject on you. I forget how long Harper has been out. But over the last 30 days, last 30 games, the Nats are 20-10. Their last 20 games, they're 13-7. This was before today, so you could add 14. So they're 88-55, and going in. Well, they didn't play a team with a winning record today. They've only played 53 games against teams with winning records. They're 28-25. The Dodgers, by the way, are only 34-32 against teams with winning records. Do you know who the best team record in baseball is against winning records? It's going to be an American League team.
I want to say the Indians. It's
the Houston Astros at 48-32. The Indians are 41-24, so that might get you with the percentage. Against teams that you should be beating with under 500 records, the Nats are now 60-30. So that's, but yeah, that's the whole thing. I guess it comes down to just how good of a team that this really is. We both offered, and Judo offered, different highlights of what we thought might have been the turning point of the season. It just goes to show how resilient they are and how much depth that they have. That there's not that one moment. There's no game-winning home run in the middle of September that kind of put it away. that it's been just kind of slow and steady. And yes, you look at especially you go back to how bad the bullpen was at times this year, and all the adversity they went through, and yet here they are with a 19.5 game lead with 19 games to play.
And it's hidden depth too. I mean, I don't think any of us thought, oh, Adrian Sanchez is going to be a huge contributor, or Wilmer Defoe is going to be. I think maybe Defoe, maybe the lone exception, because he had the experience before. But it's kind of those different guys that have just come up and been a huge surprise. I mean, how many of us thought that Matt Albers would be pitching big games in the 7th inning and doing a great job?
Nobody. They released him in spring training. He was a spring training invitee, and they released him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't even on the roster when they came north. Whistler, by the way, has been yanked. Runner on third. I don't know who's coming in for that, but I'm sure they're still booing in them in Washington. But you're right. I mean, that and the kind of comeback from Joe Blanton after being injured. And what we've seen from Sammy Solis after his injury, but especially you're right about Albers. And what Coda Glover did before he got hurt again as a potential closer. And I want to give a shout out to Enny Romero, who pitched better than anyone thought he was going to do, right? I mean, he throws at 100 miles an hour, and now he's starting to know what to do with it. I mean, you saw some of those people in the back of the bullpen really develop over the course of the year.
Seth says that Adam Eaton is currently playing catch with Bryce Harper.
I haven't seen that, but he's probably watching on television what we can't see up here in New York and in Vermont. That'd be pretty cool if that was the case. Have you heard anything new about whether Eaton would even be available for the World Series?
I haven't. I wouldn't take a chance on that, but especially since they're going to have other injured players coming back. Maybe Eaton would be like a pinch hitter, but you really want to take up a roster spot in the World Series if Eaton isn't going to play that much if it gets to that point.
If he can run, just another bat to have out there, but I don't know, kind of like what we worry about with Harper is, okay, so where are you going to get your reps before you come in? But, all right, so
what about Judo brought up the turning point of the year being the Doolittle-Madsen trade? I feel like this team's been a completely different level since then. What are they, 37-19?
I'd have to look, but yeah. Ian Kroll, by the way, has come in to shut down this Marlins rally. I would think so. I think maybe not necessarily for what we saw from the outside, because Dusty Baker and the veteran crew there. Ian Kinsler's kid almost ran off with Teddy from the Racing Presidents. Because the front office has done a very good job keeping whatever internal strife there might be out of the press. But yeah, I think just to have that stability after the trade probably was the biggest turning point, and scoring Kinsler at the deadline. And they didn't really hurt their future. Remember, you and I were talking about, and Drew as well, that, every time that they made a trade, the only player of really note that left was Blake Trinan.
Mm-hmm.
All these top prospects are still here.
And in some cases, contributing.
And in a lot of cases, contributing. All right, fly out to right will score a run. So if the Nats are going to clinch, the Braves are going to need 3 in the bottom of the 9th.
But they do have they'll need 4 if they want to win.
Right.
But they do have Albies, Freeman, and Markakis coming up in the 9th.
Aaron Judge, by the way, at his 40th of the year. The Yankees lead the Rangers 9-1. So, yeah, I mean, just over and over and over again, we talk about different things that made this potentially, well, they will win the division. Whether it's today or not remains to be seen. And yeah, and I really, as much as we're trying to vamp for time today, I think it really would be cool if it is Gio on Tuesday. I mean, just where he was beforehand coming into the season. I think if there was really one person that has been probably the biggest surprise, I think even more than Albers, if you ask me, was Gio Gonzalez. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. He arguably, if Ryan Zimmerman wasn't having the year that he's been having, Gio's your comeback player of the year, because he's gone from being a guy that you're not really sure if you would have liked that $12 million option to vest at the beginning of the year to top 5 Cy Young candidate at the very least. And I saw John Morosi, we were talking about the other day, was on MLB Central this week and said Gio would get his vote if the year ended today. Because Gio's going to get to 200 innings, and most of the time you get your Cy Young winner gets to 200. Max isn't going to get to 200. Clayton Kershaw is not going to get to 200. You're looking at Gio and probably Greinke that get to 200 innings.
What did you see with his changeup, which I believe has like a batting average of 145 against?
For Gio?
For Gio, yeah. I saw that. I think maybe it was his last start, which is about the last time I actually had a working office here that I could actually watch the Nats.
I think the main difference for him this year has been the ability to sort of compartmentalize and not rush everything with men scoring position. He just looks more focused. And whether that's Matt Wieters, which if that's the case and Matt Wieters is the sole reason why Gio sort of found it again, then he was worth the $12 million, regardless of how bad the offensive numbers he's been. But I think it's his batting average against the run and scoring position is like 137.
Which is unheard of. The biggest change to me, I think, came after the All-Star break. He still, will strike out a fair amount of batters, but he stopped trying for it. He just let his fielders behind him put the ball into play, and good things happened. And it may not be the statistical way to do this, but it's been awfully effective. Yarlin Garcia, by the way, will try to close this out for the Marlins.
Let me give you your pitching matchups in case this does not get clinched today. Again, 7:05 on Tuesday. Both teams are off tomorrow, which is good because you don't want to have the whole awkward thing where Miami would lose on Monday and you would clinch before you played a game.
Right.
That'd be a little weird.
So no show tomorrow regardless.
Mm-hmm. Gio against Julio Teheran in Braves-Nats. Teheran seems to always pitch well at Nats Park as opposed to pitching well at SunTrust. So that's the one to keep an eye on. But Gio, as we talk about, is having an insane season. His numbers against Atlanta this year, I'm just going to pull those up real quick. If he's faced Atlanta at all, he's not pitched well. In 2 starts, 0-1 with an ERA of 5.4, 7 runs allowed in 11 2/3, 11 strikeouts, 5 walks, and a batting average against of 333. He has not faced Atlanta since July 6th, when he gave up 3 runs, 7 hits over 6 innings. His other start was on May 19th, 4 runs and 5 2/3. So
I would think that the other thing that would be a concern with Gio is if this stays the way it is in Atlanta right now, he's going to be extremely pumped.
Mm-hmm.
That may work against him as opposed to for him.
So let me look at the Marlins-Phillies matchup Tuesday. It is Dylan Peters, who we saw last week against, so maybe former Nats prospect Nick Pivetta might help out, although Pavetta's got an ERA I'm seeing from MLB.com, an ERA of 9.40 since the end of July.
That's not very good.
No, not at all. But Peters, I was watching, I think I did the game with Peters last week. He got called from Double-A and I think had 6 strikeouts over 5, I believe.
That's very good.
It wasn't bad. Mark Leiter Jr. wasn't bad last night either. Struck out 8.
No. The Phillies, their offense is certainly all right. You can see where they're going to be a decent team in due course.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they got a ways to go to get to where Milwaukee has been. We talked about earlier, I think Milwaukee has probably been the biggest pleasant surprise of the year. That is a long fly out to Ichiro, and so they're just 1 out in Atlanta.
Okay. Jay said, hope we go get a catcher this offseason. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Matt Wieder's going to pick up that option, and he's going to stay.
No one is going to give Wieters more than $10.5 million in free agency.
And then Judo asked, if Kinsler walks after this season, do we need to replace him with another seventh inning guy? I think if Kinsler would walk, I don't think the Nats would have a problem. And I know Jay brought this up too in the chat because Seth had to leave, unfortunately.
Right.
But Coda Glover, I think they'd give him a chance to get that seventh inning spot.
I agree.
I mean, it's much easier to ease him into that role than to ease him into being the closer.
Right. Yeah, there's no pressure now with Doolittle going into the season. What happens once the season starts in their story, but you'd think that they go into 2018 with the closer question at least not settled. And I do think that that Wieters is the opening day catcher. I think the question is the backup Lobaton? Is it free agent scrub du jour, or do they finally let Severino have the chance to stay up with a big club and not sit in Syracuse?
Because you look at next year, most of the team that's here now is what's coming back. I mean, they don't really have, outside of Worth, that huge free agent that's going to leave next year.
No, I think Kinsler was the biggest free agent.
Kinsler too, but outside of those two.
Right. And that works to your favor, I think, as well for the long term. I think that Michael A. Taylor will be the opening day center fielder, and I think that that Adam Eaton, when he comes back, will play probably in left field with Bryce in right field. And that Andrew Stevenson will get better, and you love the enthusiasm from Victor Robles. And I think Brian Goodwin probably makes the team as a bench player because he can play it. So, I really think that this team is in such good shape next year. They don't have to go out and buy anybody, really. I mean, if we're talking about, a fifth starter and a backup catcher. Freddie Freeman, by the way, has a hit. I haven't seen it yet. And now I have. He laces a single into right center, and so the Braves have one on and one out in the bottom of the ninth.
You're not getting Kyle Barraclough tonight. Kyle Barraclough last night walked in the winning run. He really had no command. Inciarte walked on 4 pitches in last night's game.
Apparently they are doing the tomahawk chop in Washington right now. It's something that, things I didn't think I would see in April for 500, Alex.
Judo said, don't forget Stras's 33 straight shutout innings. I don't think we did. I know you mentioned it.
34 now.
34. How great he's been. And Jay said, what do we do for the 5th pitching spot? I think it's Eric Fetty. I think he's the favorite, barring them either. Maybe he competes with Jackson, whether they bring in somebody else. I think they're going to give Eric Fetty every chance to win that spot next year.
Maybe what you also have happen with A.J. Cole in the spring, what we did with Michael Taylor. Look, this is your last chance.
Uh-huh.
If you don't do something with it, then we'll move you. That's also they have they could possibly trade for, depending on what they want to do. I have a hard time seeing Sean Kelly being on this roster next year, don't you? They're not going to cut him. But I have a hard time seeing him being here.
Yeah, that's going to be tough to keep him on the roster next year the way he's been pitching. But you never know. Maybe he has one of those years where he's really good, really bad, and then gets really good again. It's really tough with the relievers. But Jay says Jackson's been okay, but not the answer long-term next season while Ross heals. Well, that's where Eric Fetty, I think, fits into the equation. The question will be his innings. I'll tell you, though, from last night's game, we were watching A.J. Cole throw a 96 with a slider out of the pen. Maybe try him in that kind of spot because
you could.
He looked pretty. I thought he looked more confident last night, despite he had a balk. But besides that, was it 27 out of 42 for strikes last night?
Markakis splits the gap. He has a double. Freeman is on third. Braves have the tying run on with 1 out in the ninth. You want to check MLB Network to see if what they're doing?
I would. My audio is on though, so hopefully I will try to see what I can do here.
All right. You can do that, and as soon as you let me know, then I can make a switch here, and then we can follow the end of that game. End of
All
this
right,
game live.
let me mute my mic while I check that.
All right, so I'll talk amongst myself here for just a second. Thank you very much for hanging with us. Let me see if there's anything else in the chat real quick. It helps if I have the right window open. So for the three of you who are watching, thank you very much. The fifth starter is Sean Kelly. No, the fifth starter is not going to be Sean Kelly, Judo. I don't know what you've been there. But, you know, I do think that I agree with Ricky. I really do think it'll be it's Fetty's job to lose. I'd be surprised if Edwin Jackson came back, but you never know. I mean, he has at times pitched very well over the course of his time here, and
yeah, it's on an MLB Network if you want.
All right, so I'm going to make a change, and then you can vamp for a minute while I get that set.
Absolutely. So while Ron's doing that, let me give you what we had on the site today. We like to do that. Ron talked about how, regardless of whenever the Nats clinch, it's worth the celebration. There are a lot of people that sometimes view, okay, this team's done so much in recent years that, okay, what does really clinching a division mean? But sort of things we talked about, how all the depth and all the resiliency this team has had, and the injuries, there's reason to celebrate, and the young guys deserve it. I mean, they haven't been in this situation before. So anytime you can throw a party, you throw a party. For the veterans, I think, will be a little bit more subdued because they know what the big mission is. But Ron talked about that. Drew had his player of the week. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I want you to go read it on districtdondeck.com. But
check it out. Okay,
by the last couple of days, you might know who it is.
Tyler Flowers lines out to third, or grounds out to third. Run scores. It's 8-6, and there's 2 out. So that's the situation now, live from Atlanta, or plausibly live on MLB Tonight. And you should check out that. And tomorrow, not sure what are you gonna write about the kids, right? And
yeah, I'm gonna write about how the young players got a chance to play today and how critical they've been to this year's team.
Lane Adams, by the way, is up in Atlanta. He has the last chance to extend this today. And I don't know what I'm writing about. If the Braves win this game, I will have a slider on how the Nats won the National League East.
I like Judo's comment here. Edwin Jackson's like the guy that's always moving job to job and shares interesting stories about his life.
Well, he's pitched for what, 13 different franchises?
This is his second stint here.
By the time he's done, he's going to pitch till he's about 40, 45, and he'll pitch.
He did turn 34 yesterday, so happy. We did say happy birthday last night, but we'll say it again because it's fun.
That's cool.
I don't know, though. What didn't Jeremy Guthrie have that bad game on his birthday?
Yes, it was.
Something about Nats pitchers on their birthdays this year isn't a really good combo.
Against the
Phillies. There's no October birthdays this year.
Against the Phillies of all teams.
Phillies just don't like birthdays.
One of those things that you could probably today is probably the first game I've seen that the Nats legitimately beat them. You know, you can make a case that the Phillies could have won every up going into this series. That the Phillies could have swept the Nats this year. I mean, they really played them very, very hard. I don't think we'll have this much time to vamp on Tuesday, or at least I hope we don't.
Let's run through some more scores. At least I'll do the American League side here because we did the National League earlier. Kansas City leads Minnesota 10-1 the 8th, so about to be back-to-back losses for the Twins. Seattle leads the Angels 2-1. That game in the second. Huge game there for both those teams. Astros and A's scoreless in the third. Yankees up 9-2, bottom of the fourth against Texas. Tampa up 4-1 on Boston in the ninth. And later tonight, the Indians go for 18 in a row.
That's amazing.
On ESPN against Baltimore. Jeremy Hellickson against Trevor Bauer. And Cleveland and Houston are actually tied for the number 1 seed in the American League.
You got to think that the Indians are going to be favorites to win. Adams draws a full count walk. So it's the winning run is now at the plate for Atlanta.
Too bad Matt Adams left this game with an injury.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. It's up to Johan Camargo, who did hit, I think Camargo had a home run either yesterday or the day before.
The Mets have lost to the Reds 10-5.
Oh, Judo said Max got 15 runs of support on his birthday.
I
guess that was the Milwaukee game, Judo?
There's a pitching change, and they've cut away from it on MLB tonight. So there will be a new pitcher on for the Marlins to try to end this game. But as I said, with 2 runners, the winning run is now at the plate in Camargo with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th. It's still 8-6 Miami. And if that score holds, then scoreboard watch, well, fully it's in Washington's hands. If Gio beats the Braves on Tuesday night, then the Nats are champions. Believe it or not, though, MLB Network is showing the Yankees and the Rays from Citi Field.
On Tuesday?
On Tuesday.
Yeah, they have Monday's game too. That's gonna. I'll tell you though, I'm probably not gonna get to go to any of those, but it's only $25 to sit field level, and you rarely get that opportunity in New York to do that.
What's the normal price for those?
I'm not sure, but definitely way more than 25.
Chelsea Jane says Nats playing hype music as the game goes to commercial break with a winning run coming to the plate for the Braves.
So now this game goes 10. We're probably not get if it gets to extra innings, we ain't coming back for the whole extra innings at this point.
No, I think at this point
this is probably the last inning we're here.
Yeah. My dinner's cooking. My wife is making some roast beef, and it smells good. Chris Volstad, by the way, is pitching for the Marlins.
Chris Volstad. Talk about a name from the past.
Rufus, the rally pigeon, has been chatting with me for most of the day. You never know.
Definitely a great follow. So
absolutely.
If it does come down to clinch Tuesday, we'll probably, since we're going to try to get all the particulars here, it will be multiple people from us, right?
Oh, I would think
we haven't even nailed down who's doing the games in Atlanta yet, so we can't really tell you that.
Right. But we except for the one game when there were technical difficulties, we do plan on doing these throughout the rest of the regular season because there are stories to be talked about the rest of the regular season. There's playoff roster spots to be decided. Apparently, Dan Coco has taken off his suit. That's critical information in the Nats locker room. And Ray Knight is giving him some grief about it. I was joking earlier that it should be that he should have actually done the game in a wetsuit just in case Jason Worth found him in a magnum of champagne, because you know that's going to happen. But yes, we will do every game the rest of the way, and we will have multiple tag team coverage of the playoffs, which hopefully goes beyond the first round this year. But
we're going to try also, hopefully, to get a guest during that Dodgers series. I don't know if it'll happen, but considering that's the last big series before the regular season ends,
right?
And we want to get somebody to talk about how bad the Dodgers are playing.
And remember that Sunday night game it's a Sunday game. It's Sunday game. It's a night game. It's on ESPN, and now
Saturday's on Fox
at 1:00.
Mm-hmm.
So now those games actually mean something to the Dodgers, because you think that they want to hold on to that, even though they don't want to face the wild card winner again. That would just be kind of a catastrophe for them if they somehow fell out of that spot.
Judo says if the Nats clinch on Tuesday, you should have a bunch of interns host the chat.
We are a bunch of interns, Judo. Don't you understand that? All right, so here we go. It's Guerra pitching, and he has an 0-2 count against Camargo.
Camargo's on base. Uh-oh.
And
do they have can the Braves get some
base? No. It's an infield hit, throw to third. So the bases are loaded now. The winning run is on base in Camargo. I don't know. Volta must have been someone else's feed. So the Marlins, kind of like getting their entire year here, having a hard time holding on in a game that they must win.
Matt Kemp's on the bench. they put Matt Kemp in the pinch hit, please?
You want to walk off Granny?
Yeah, why not? What the heck? We got Ruiz up next. If he gets on, the pitcher spot is up.
By the way, if you're in Atlanta, it's 40% off any Papa John's pizza if a Braves hit a grand slam.
Wow.
That's the kind of insight you only get on District on Deck. Oh, and so it's Rio Ruiz, and he swings and fouls back strike one. Hopefully the MLB gods have not shut us off yet, because we're definitely violating, I'm sure, some things here. So there's lots of tension on Twitter. People really can't watch. Not a big crowd in Atlanta today, but they were good. With people who were forced to evacuate from Irma got free tickets to this entire series. So
that was a great gesture, but although how much of that gets canceled out by the fact that they played Rock You Like a Hurricane earlier in the series in Atlanta?
Really? Count as 0-2 to Ruiz. Yeah, so we'll be with you. So, yeah, I don't know if usually ESPN has been very good about letting us to talk to some of their people before each of the Sunday Night Baseball games. I don't know if they will do the same for this or not. So
I'm just saying we hope so, but
we hope so. I just got
we've had three different people for three different series.
Absolutely. So it's rare. This is, I think, must be the first time ever the Nats will have 4 Sunday night games.
Yeah, that's a rarity for them, but it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. 32,000 a day. I take it they drew well over the weekend.
Yeah, I would say so. It was a good crowd. Was an exciting game on Friday. Can I understand last night wasn't the greatest game, but Nats hung in there, especially getting down early. I think it was close as what you get for the Phillies.
Ground ball past third. The game will go on. It is now 8-7. Atlanta down by 1.
Wow.
So a sharp grounder caught the Miami third baseman off guard. It bounced off his glove, and the game is tied. Pardon me. The game is tied at 8. So the winning run is on second. We might stay around for the 10th at this point. Let's take it just because we're already here. There are thousands of you who are still in the stands in Washington who have watched that and are absolutely cheering. They did this with the Red Sox a few years ago when they clinched in 2007. I think it was Baltimore was playing. I don't know. It doesn't matter who they were playing, but they kept it up on the board, and that's how they found out they won the division. 30,000 people just kind of having a very good time. It's not that big in Washington, but everyone is definitely enthused as we are now in an 8-8 tie, and Matt Kemp is at the plate. And he swings and fouls back the first pitch.
I'd say I called that one, but it was bad or late.
Yes, you did. Ricky gets full credit for that. So the Yankees lead 9-2. The Red Sox have lost 4-1.
You said it, not me.
You should know by now, Mr. Keeler, that I try to be extremely objective in all this.
Meanwhile, I get all the Apple Watch questions when you're not here.
Hey. All right, so it'll be extra innings. Let's at least try to stay the 10th. I don't know who's up for Miami, but the Braves have forced extra because why not? They score 3 in the bottom of the 9th inning. After 9, it's the Marlins 8, the Braves 8.
Who's up in the 10th for the Marlins? Rojas, pitcher spot. Rio Muto, I think, is the 10th inning.
You know, even for a foregone conclusion, this is just kind of intense, isn't it? Late games of the National Football League because, what the hell? 10-3, the Rams lead the Colts. Seahawks and Packers are in the second quarter now, which tells you how long we've been vamping. Scoreless. That was a quick first quarter in Green Bay. And the Panthers lead the 49ers 7-0 with 2:51 to go in the first. And we won't talk about what happened Thursday. Giants and Cowboys tonight. Monday night doubleheader, Saints and Vikings and Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers. Get used to that. And the Broncos.
Judo says he could explain to us what he does for NASA while we're waiting.
All right. Well, if he wants to do that, he can. Let me go through all these final scores again from earlier. Steelers beat the Browns 21-18. The Lions beat the Cardinals 35-23 in a game that no one deserved to win from everything I read. Jacksonville beat Houston 29-7. Raiders beat the Titans 26-16. Eagles 30, Redskins 17. Yeah, did I say that fast enough? Ravens shut out the Bengals 20-0. Falcons beat the Bears 23-17. And the Bills beat the Jets 21-12. And as I was spewing through those scores, the Rams have scored again. It's now 17-3 over the Andrew Luck less Colts.
All right, so let's do this. What's your over the final? What do we got? 19 games left.
19 games, yeah.
Biggest storyline of the final 19 games. There is one. 7 of them are with Atlanta, by the way. It's either 6 or 7, but I think it's 6. 6 of them with Atlanta.
I think the obvious one, do they actually have a chance to catch the Dodgers? Which is something I think was absolutely unthinkable a week ago. The other ones I would say, if I was to the Nationals just tweeted out as they're doing the tomahawk chop in Atlanta, breathe in the paper bag, breathe in the paper bag, and breathe into a paper bag. I think, if I was to turn this into a slideshow, can they catch the Dodgers? Can they keep everyone healthy? Because you don't want to go to lose anyone else now before the end of the year, because they're pretty much all, it's a foregone conclusion. They will play at least a 163rd game. And can Pedro Severino overtake Jose Lobaton to make the playoff roster? Does Sean Kelly make the playoff roster? Those are the things that I would think would be the things to watch for.
For me, it's can Jason Worth get back? He had a 0 for 20 or something like that before missing the Phillies series with the shoulder tightness. And I think they could really use him back to work the count and get some big at-bats in the postseason because he has that experience. And it's nice insurance to have if Bryce Harper isn't 100% for the postseason, because you would have Worth in right field. At least the quality option out there, as opposed to using Diaz or using Robles or using Stevenson or somebody like that, or Kendrick, let's say. They would at least have that in their back pocket and keep their bench the strength that it is. All right, so here's the big mystery. This is what Judo does for NASA.
Okay.
Judo says, I program simulations to test air traffic control and airline route planning software. The team that hired me actually won NASA Software of the Year honors for a tool going on airliners in 2017.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. I just put it out on Twitter if you have any questions to us. So they're now giving us Happy Talk in the MLB Network booth. So we'll let this go a couple more minutes. If they put the game back on, I'm not going to set up the whole MLB TV thing again. But that's awesome. Where'd you get your undergrad, Judo, if you don't mind saying?
We need more people like that.
We absolutely do, and it's such a critical system that runs on 1970s technology.
Jay says he sells cable. My life doesn't feel as meaningful.
I write about baseball on the internet from my bedroom, okay, Jay? It's fine.
I'm sure you're a really good seller of cable.
They're showing other highlights here, so we'll see if we get any question. That's very cool, though, that those of you who were at the park have stayed to watch. You're now
a lot of credit to you guys that they've stayed to at the park to watch the last, 4 innings of this game.
Right. I mean, we're now at slightly after 5 o'clock here in the East. And JD Martinez, by the way, has hit his 36 for Arizona.
Interesting stat line to follow in that game.
1-1, by the way.
Yeah, but the interesting stat line is Robbie Ray has 6 strikeouts to 2+.
Wow, two outs in the 3rd inning. He's allowed 3 hits, but he struck out 6.
He's probably one of the more underrated pitchers in the league.
He absolutely is. And what about JD Martinez? 20 homers since the trade.
Yeah, he's been really good. Judo says he got a degree in modeling and simulation engineering at Old Dominion.
I went to school for radio.
Jay says, honestly, I'd rather write about baseball for a living. That sounds more fulfilling.
I feel like such a piker after hearing what some of you people do. I mean, I love the give and take, but, what did you do? I graduated from Hamburger University. Right?
Well, we always are taking writers over at District on Deck. If
absolutely, Judo.
somebody out there wants to join our team, we're happy to have you aboard.
All right, I'm not going to let this go much longer unless they bring us back to the game. The Brewers and Cubs are now reached the bottom of the 9th of their game. It's 3-1. Milwaukee, and that's huge.
Would put St. Louis and Milwaukee within 2 if that result holds.
Right, that is absolutely
Chicago's got the Mets coming up, though.
Yankees are up 9-3 on the Rangers. Aaron Judge
Who do you think wins that AL wild card? Let's do that.
Oh my goodness gracious!
You want the updated one before I put you on record for the last 3 weeks of the season? Who it is?
Would you please? Because I look like an idiot enough as it is.
All right, let me give you the updated wild card standings.
The Yankees have the first, but everyone's within still 5 or 6 games of each other, right?
Correct. Most everybody.
Right. And the 8,000 contenders.
Angels are 2 behind Minnesota. Texas is 2.5. Baltimore is 3. Seattle is 3. Kansas City is 3.5. Tampa is 4. So they keep their slim hopes alive with that win today. Basically, with the Twins losing, either LA is going to be a game behind or Seattle is going to be 2 behind by the end of the night.
I think the Yankees get 1.
The Yankees have on the 3rd wild card spot have a 4.5 game lead.
I think the Twins are in decent shape because they're just playing with house money. But if I was to go with an experienced team, I would go with Kansas City.
All right, I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the Angels. I know they've been struggling out in Seattle a little bit, but I love the moves they made with Upton and Phillips. They, I believe, got Garrett Richards back to that rotation. So I kind of like their arms more than I like Seattle's arms because Seattle just hasn't gotten Felix back or Paxton or any of those big names. Because if they got any of those guys back, Seattle would be right in the conversation.
I like it. I like the fact that
give me a 16 playoffs so the Yankees can sit around for about a week. Now we'll throw it back to you again. Since you're the resident Red Sox fan,
right?
You want Cleveland or do you want Houston?
I want no part of the Cleveland Indians.
I said last night I think the Red Sox would beat Houston in a best of 5.
I think Houston's a better team than they were before. I think Verlander really is.
Yeah, but isn't Sale Verlander close to a push?
Well, yeah, if the Red Sox don't score any runs. Yes, I don't. Maybe the 2014 version of Justin Verlander would be a push.
Good. I gotta give Mark Bowman and OB.com a lot of credit. As payback for the approaching weather delay, the Braves will play 3 hours of extra innings while the Nats wait. I
believe the Marlins have scored. Nope, Stanton makes another great catch. So we're not seeing any of this. The Yankees, by the way, have scored. So it's now 10-3. MLB Network really screwed this up. They should have kept with that game. So I think no one responded to any questions there, so we'll go one more time through. If you got anything in chat real quick.
When does the NL get the DH? That's from Jay.
When does the National get the DH? I think that they get the DH soon. I think you're going to see a round of expansion in the next few years. And they're going to go to the 11th. And we're not going to stick with you for that because of that.
So if they do celebrate like we're here, but we're not really here.
Right. I think you see it. I think there's just too much money involved with these pitchers. And to have them risking injuries to do this is just not safe. It's just not what the teams want to do. It's not what people want to see. And I suspect it's going to be sooner than later, maybe in a couple of years. All right, guys. We thank you so much for hanging out with us and for Ricky to come on and spend the last hour with you. They're going to the 11th inning in Atlanta, and we saw none of it. Thanks, MLB Tonight. And so for Ricky Keeler, I'm Ron Juckett. If they clinch tonight, party amongst yourselves. Be safe about it. Think of the folks in Florida who need your thoughts and prayers and love right now. It's a Category 2 hurricane at the moment, but that's still very dangerous and dumping a lot of rain on an area that's very flat. So we will be with you again on Tuesday, either as National League East champions or on the verge of it. So again, Miami and Atlanta go to the 11th inning, tied at 8. And so for Drew Douglas and Ricky Keeler, I'm Ron Juckett. Have a very good Sunday night from District on Deck. Good night.